we're going to go ahead and practice where they're giving us one of the legs is missing. Okay, we're still going to plug in like we did before. We're going to still solve for that missing letter. Okay, so here's my A and my B. Now they've already identified this one as A, so this obviously has to be B. This is my C side. Okay, so do I know the A? No, so I'm going to write A squared plus my B side was 16, so 16 squared equals my C side was a 20, so 20 squared. I'm still going to now simplify, convert those squareds. Okay, just like orders of operation, I would simplify any exponents before I'd move on to anything else. So now we'll go ahead and simplify. I can't do A squared, that stays the same. Okay, so how is this different? Before we guys had the C squared by itself. This time it's going to be one of these two spots. So my A squared's there. Plus I'm going to go ahead and do my 16 squared, which is 256. Okay, and those of you on calculators, you can either do 16 times 16 or most of you will have a button that either has a little 2 number or you'll have a button that does this and you can then push a 2. If you are wanting to understand that quick button push and you don't know how to do your calculator, come see me, I'll help you out with that. Okay, so then 20 squared is 400. Okay, so now how is this different? I don't have the A squared by itself. So this is the part that's different. Okay, we don't get to pick the C side. The A and the B we can flip-flop, but we don't get to pick the C side and substitute in. So we're still trying to get that A squared by itself, which means just like we would do before back in chapter 1, we would work to get A by itself. So I'm going to go minus 256. Okay, so now I just have the A squared over here, but whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to go to the other side and do minus 256. Okay, so 400 minus 256 gives me 144. Okay, now I still want to get it to just be an A. So to get rid of that squared, I'm going to do the square root to cancel that out. So the square root, because those are opposites, of 144 is 12. So I just found out that the A equals 12. So my A length is 12. That makes sense. It's my shortest side. When I'm looking at it, I can visually see that it is my shortest side, and that is my smallest number. Okay, so the part that's different here than those very first ones that we did is now we're solving for the A or the B. So remembering that we're identifying, we don't get to just plug in the 2 that we know in those front 2 spots. Those are the legs. The A and the B are the legs, the part that make up the right angle. Okay, and that's the most common mistake is kids think, oh, I just plug in the 2 numbers that I know into A and B. No, you have to make sure that you're plugging in the ones that are making up the right angle. Okay, there's my right angle. Those are the numbers or the letters that are substituting in here. This is my C. Okay, so I don't know A, so we'll leave that. Plus my B side, this is my B, because that's the other part of the right angle, is 2.1 squared equals, I know the C this time is 2.9. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and simplify. I can't simplify any further the A squared right now. So now on my calculator, 2.1 squared gives me plus 4.41 equals 2.9 squared is 8.41. Okay, I want to work to get A squared by itself. Here's my equal sign. How am I going to get rid of that 4.41? I'm going to subtract. So I'm going back to stuff that I learned in that we reviewed in chapter 1. That's gone. So whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. I now have A squared equals 8.41 minus 4.41 is 4. Final step, I have to get that squared out of there. So we have to do that square root to cancel it out. So A equals the square root of 4. A equals 2. Does that make sense? Yes, it should not be a number that's the largest. My largest side is going to be that hypotenuse. Okay, so had I written down that A was 4, well, that wouldn't make sense because the hypotenuse has to be the longest side. Okay, so we make sure your final step, make sure that you're doing the square root of that. Okay, so basically out of this lesson, you're working through solving a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where these two are your legs and this is your hypotenuse. Okay, that's your longest side. Your legs make up your right angle, so make sure that you're identifying your two lengths that are making up the right angle and plugging those in. If you're solving for the hypotenuse, it's very simple. It's one step less. If you're missing your A or your B, you have to remember to do that step of isolating to get that letter by itself. So you're going to have to do some subtraction there. Key thing on this one, don't forget to do the square root of your number. To get rid of this squared, you have to do the square root of whatever the number is. Okay, so good luck with this and just keep plugging away and working hard. I promise the more you practice these, the better you will get. When I assess you, I will assess you on ones that are, for the most part, pretty easy numbers to work with. I'm not going to say that you won't ever get decimal numbers, but I promise I won't assess you when you're working rational numbers in fraction format. Okay, we'll practice those, but I won't be assessing you on those.